Hi, friends. Welcome to the Hey Fundraiser podcast. I'm your host, Mary, and whether you're a frontline fundraiser, the operations professional, a board member, or just somebody wanting to make an impact in your community, this podcast is for you. We cover all facets of fundraising, and our main objective is to give you ideas and inspiration to help you raise more money. Join us as we learn, grow, and make an impact together. Hey, fundraiser. You know how important your fundraising reports are. They tell the story of your donors' behavior and how your fundraising efforts are faring. Once they are released for public consumption, assumptions are going to be made, and your audiences, the people who read your reports, are going to react to exactly what was given to them. That's why producing the right reports for the right audiences are super important. In this podcast, we are going to dig into exactly what metrics should be provided for your 4 main report audiences. But before we go into how to do things right, let's look at how most nonprofits go wrong. There are really 3 big issues. First is that too much information is provided. This causes your audiences to go into analysis paralysis, and they don't know what to react to or how they can help you. You have 4 audiences for reports, which we're going to get to in a minute. And each of those audiences deserve their own insights into your fundraising efforts. Like, the days of a one-size-fits-all report will not work any longer. The second issue I see where nonprofits go wrong with their reporting is that the data they provide isn't put into perspective. Without trend data, the reader doesn't know if the data they're looking at is good or bad. Let's say that you report out that you have 1,200 donors. That's great, but how does that compare to the same time frame last year? Or how does that compare to what your goal is for the number of donors? See, the trend data is critical. The third issue is that reports are too hard to read or overly complex. They don't have the right data visualization. Your audiences shouldn't need a PhD to interpret your fundraising reports. Essentially, provide the right amount of data to the right audience, put that data into perspective with the trend analysis, and make it easy for your audiences to interpret the report and understand how they can plug into your efforts. So now that we covered where nonprofits go wrong, let's talk about how you can rock your fundraising reports. The best thing you can do is understand your audiences and provide actionable information for each audience. Let's start with your board. Your board needs to understand the organization's philanthropic landscape, engage in your fundraising efforts, and assist you in meeting your goal in the best way that they know how to. Your board are not full-time fundraisers, and they don't speak fluent fundraising. They need high-level visibility and do not need the details of every mailing, appeal, or fundraising effort. The next audience is your leadership. This is your CEO and your Chief Development Officer. This group needs to understand the landscape and how that landscape is changing, but these are your strategists. This group needs to help you manage your department and then also help you build strong strategy for meeting your goal. They need to know where revenue is coming from, what's working, what's not working, and be able to manage appropriately. The third audience is the development department itself. These are your boots on the ground fundraisers who need the ability to course correct when things aren't going as planned. This is the audience that you can provide all the detail that you want. This is the detail-oriented audience, and they need to know how their specific efforts and programs are faring. This includes where they are to budget, so they can make changes in their tactics before the end of the fiscal year. The final audience is finance, and we're not going to spend too much time on finance in this podcast. Finance needs to reconcile and understand receivables. Essentially, they need a gift listing of all cash and pledge payments. They need to know revenue by fund, any pledge payments that were made, any adjustments or write-offs, and a list of new pledges. Our other 3 audiences, the board, leadership, and your development department, we really want to focus on those today because those are the reports that need the most correcting. So now that we know our audiences, let's talk about the content for each audience. The key is to produce the right amount of data in an easy to read format or visual. I'm going to link some report samples in our show notes. Your board needs to understand the landscape and how it's changing, plug in where they know how to, and assist you in meeting your goal. On a monthly basis, they need to receive 4 items. Total raised by constituency group. So this could be a simple bar chart of how much has come in from individuals versus foundations versus corporations versus government. They need to know the total raised by channel category. Now, you do not want to list every single channel like, oh, this web page brought in this much money. Oh no, I'm talking about consolidating all of those fundraising channels into 3 or 4 categories. Like, here are some popular ones: online giving, direct mail, grants, events, personal solicitations. Like, that's it. Like, I wouldn't go more than 5 category, like channel categories. The next thing they need to know is the number of donors. So how many people are giving, how many institutions are giving, and how is that changing over time? And then lastly is actual to budget. How much have you raised against your budget? So that's what your board should receive on a monthly basis. On an annual basis, and this is usually, the first board meeting of the new fiscal year, right? So you've closed your fiscal year and you're reporting at the next board meeting about the previous year. They should know the cost to raise $1. Like, that's a standard metric that a lot of board members know about and understand. They also should look at the return on investment. This is the inverse calculation of cost to raise $1. And frankly, I think it's much more interesting. So if your cost to raise $1 is 25 cents, that means that your return on investment is $4. If the organization gives the development department $1, then you're going to bring back $4, which is a really great metric that shows return on investment. And it's probably one of the best ROIs within your whole organization. So make sure to communicate that on an annual basis to your board. The third thing is retention rate by constituency and gift level. So this is something that the board can understand, like how many corporations are retained each year, and how many are retained at $10,000 plus? How many individuals are retained each year, and what is the retention rate for gifts over $500 and under $500? And then lastly is a snapshot of giving for the previous year. So all of the big metrics, retention rate, goal versus actual, giving by constituency, all of the things that you would want to provide your board at the end of the fiscal year. So let's switch gears to your leadership group. This group needs to understand the landscape, manage the team, and help you strategize. On a monthly basis, this group should receive total raised by constituency group and designation. So how much has come in from organizations? How much has come in from individuals? How much has come in for your unrestricted versus your restricted? They need to know the number of donors. They need to know where you are actual to budget. They need to know commitments by designation, size, and donor type. And they need to know KPIs for all of the personnel in the development department. So that should be provided to your leadership on a monthly basis. Now, on an annual basis, leadership and the development department should receive a presentation that shows how the previous fiscal year performed. I like to call everyone together and present so that everyone hears and sees the same presentation. They hear the same questions that were asked, and they hear the same answers. And this presentation should probably be 10 slides, and it would be year-over-year total giving, year-over-year total giving by constituency groups, how your donor pool is changing over the last 5 years, gift distribution, meaning, how many donors between $1 and $1,000, how many donors between $1,000 and $2,500. And then I like to include some maps of where the donors live. And maps are lovely because yes, you get to see where donors live, but then you also get to see where they don't live. And then if you're missing really important geographies, then you know, and you can build strategy to get into those communities. So that's the presentation that should happen for your leadership and your development department. Our third audience is the development department. These are more complex reports because the group needs to understand all of the ins and outs of how all of the different fundraising tactics are shaping up. They should receive everything that the leadership received and everything that the board received, but with these additions on a monthly basis. An acquisition and recovered donor analysis, median and average gift by constituency group, total raised by giving effort. So how did each mailing do? How did each email do? And really a deep dive into any giving societies. I know that this is pretty deep stuff for a podcast because there's no visuals, but make sure to check out the show notes so you can see examples of all of these reports. The last thing I want to leave you with is that these reports should be fully automated. I'm just going to say that again because you've probably fallen out of your chair. Fully automated. I care about your sanity. And although we've listed a lot of different reports today, all of these should take no more than 1 hour to produce for all three audiences. Finance is a different story, so let's just kind of put them to the side. Your board, leadership, and department reports should not be Herculean or eat a ton of your time. I know some clients that spend 8 hours a month just getting their board reports ready that are looked at for 10 minutes in a meeting. That is bananas. Take the time to build out your reports and then take the time to automate it. This is an exercise in being kind to your future self. It's a one and done item that you can use every month without rebuilding from scratch. We covered a lot today. Remember to tailor your reports for your audiences, provide trend data so that data is really put into perspective and they know how to react to it. Build easy to read reports with great visuals and make every piece of information that you provide actionable for that particular audience. Until next time. Hey fundraiser, thanks so much for being here today. Did you know that we create a special page for each episode that has helpful links, episode highlights, standout quotes, and freebies? Check it out in today's episode description. If you loved what you heard today, would you give us a rating and review? It really helps other fundraising professionals find our Hey Fundraiser community. I'm Mary, and thank you for listening today.